folks, welcome to the Long Shot Podcast. I am one of your hosts. There are two of which I am one. My name is Sean Cutler. With me is the other host, Amber Kenny. Hello, Amber.
Hello.
This is a podcast where we discuss life, the universe, and everything. So let's get into it.
Okay.
We always start the show with a segment that we like to call Checking In. And before we even get into that, we should talk about the fact that it is an unusual time for us to be recording. Sometimes mostly we record Thursday nights. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we record Sunday mornings. Currently, it is Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
Crazy. It feels weird.
It feels very strange.
Yeah. Just a very unusual, it's not football season, so we're not missing, but I was watching the Suns and the Bucks. So there is, that's how I see Sunday afternoons, as sports time. Yeah.
Sports time.
So checking in, Amber, what's going on with you?
Oh my God, so much. So, I had a very full week, mm-hmm. and I think that is what caused me to not feel well. And then that's why we couldn't record on Thursday. So last weekend, we're a week away now.
Right.
I took dance classes with Ryan Heffington, who's used to own the Sweat Spot. He's my favorite dance teacher, choreographer. I probably haven't taken a class with him since 2019. And he was offering these pop-up classes in Pasadena. And we may have talked about this on the show. I don't know how I feel about being inside in a dance class, but it mm-hmm. felt like the pros outweighed the cons. And the pros are it is so good for me, physically, spiritually, mentally, psychically. I don't know. It's just this healing, amazing dance class. So I took it both on Saturday and on Sunday. He
two dance classes you took.
Yes. He had 3 classes: Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon.
You didn't take all 3 every day.
Well, you could only sign up for 2.
Oh.
So I picked Saturday and Sunday because I was frantically reading the flyer that Lampy sent me, and I thought that it was Friday morning. I was like, well, I have to work.
Right.
But I probably, yeah.
Well, and it also seems for him doing a class on Friday morning, he's not going to put as much into it as he would right. Saturday
but
or Sunday.
It was Friday night.
Well, it would seem like a bad business move to do it Friday morning too.
Yeah. So
I guess nobody in LA has a real job, so.
Right. I didn't go Friday evening. I was going to say morning.
Or Friday morning.
And then it went afternoon. But Lampy and tested, and they said it was amazing, and that Zendaya was there. So I miss Zendaya.
Mm-hmm. She's very talented, very, very up and coming, or she's already there. She's there.
She's here, baby.
100% there. She's been there for years. I mean, mm-hmm. She's 19 and she's been a superstar for 25 years at this point.
I think she's 25, but yes.
So she's 25 and she's been a star for 19 years.
Yes, I think that might actually be accurate.
Yeah.
Because she was a Disney kid, I think.
Right. She was OG. Even as a little kid, she was a superstar. Mm-hmm. In a certain segment of the population,
Right. We're all in little
niche
pods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very niche world that we live in.
But so I took it on Saturday and I took it on Sunday, and both were great.
And she was not there either time.
She was not there either time. But on Sunday, when I showed up, as soon as I walked through the door, Ryan Heffington was there, and he gave me a big hug.
Mm.
And I went with Lampy on Sunday. Lampy and I went together, and I was like, "Do you think he thinks I'm someone else?" And she's like, no, we've been taking this class for a decade. Mm-hmm. He knows who you are.
You did not feel like you had a hugging relationship with.
I felt
Senor
like we
Heffington.
haven't ever spoke.
You were like, what the hell was that?
Well, a lot of people, and I realized this driving Lampy on Sunday because I had to wait around for it. So like a lot of people after class just kind of mill about and like talk to him and gush and ooh and ah and they have made friends amongst each other that way.
Right.
And I always am like, class is done, and I'm like, I'm gone immediately. Yeah. Like there's just dust.
You're back on your bike like the Wicked Witch of the West. Gotta get home.
Exactly. And I was like, it made me evaluate that, because I have been going to this dance class for 10 years and I have not made friends with anyone outside of people who I already knew ahead of time. And so like, and I'm always like, why are they all friends and not me? It's like, well, you're also not at all putting in any effort to become friends.
You have to be friends. You have to be a friend.
And you have to physically be there. Not just like, and
like nobody is going to come up to you after class one day after you've been going for 10 years and not hanging out with anybody after school
and be like, class. Will you be my bridesmaid?
or go, I don't know if you know this, and I don't know if you know my name, but you and I are best friends. Just FYI.
And I'd be like, oh, tight.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was that. And again, I went with Lampy on Sunday. And it was like emotional. He said all the proceeds went to the people of Ukraine, and like it's good to be back. And I don't know. I find that dance class pretty emotional to begin with, because it's so it's such a big group of people all doing the same thing and in such a celebratory way. It sounds so obvious, but a lot of dance classes feel competitive or judgy. And this is just like love, love, love.
A lot of classes are like, God, I hope I get it. Yes. I hope I get it. Yes. I really need this job. Yeah.
And so after class, I went out to lunch with Lampy. So I was like not home for a long time.
Which is unusual these days.
So weird. Like I'm starting to feel guilty about smudging Jeff, but it's like in the before times, I would have taken a dance class and gone to lunch and then like run air. Like that would have been a very normal scenario.
Right.
But
you wouldn't have gotten calls every 5 minutes from Jeff going, where are you? What's going on?
He didn't do that.
Are you coming back? What's happening?
But it was really nice to just have one-on-one lunchtime with Lampy. That was all great. Then on Monday night, I hosted the Truce, my old sketch team, here for a bad movie night. One of our founding members, Mike Murphy, is moving to Ohio this summer. So we've all decided like, oh, we have to make an effort to really hang out on a more.
You guys all came to an agreement that you should be friendly with each other.
You are now my best friend.
No, I mean, it also, you arrived at some sort of agreement that you should all get along, like a truce, you might say.
Sure. Yeah. But also just, savoring the time we could all be together before he moves away. And
so they came over to your place and watched a movie.
Yes, after work, and it was fun. We ended up not watching a movie. We were just like so happy to see each other and like catching up. I think we put on
guys. Shh. This is the part where Leia tells Luke, "Yeah,
oh, stuff's tough with your son." Easy. Like we're watching a movie. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. They stayed later than I expected. I thought it would be like, boy. Well, Jeff went to the movies that night to like give us space, and because he wanted to anyway. And so when
it's crazy is he also did not watch a movie.
Right, I know. So he came home at like 11:30 expecting to see like me tired. And
oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll just go in my room now. That's fine.
It was like everyone was still
it's
there.
Cool.
Like, and then on Tuesday night, it's so insane how granular I'm being, but it really does matter.
There's a payoff. Yeah.
On Tuesday.
So dance class, movie night.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday, like I have a group text with a bunch of girlfriends. We've been watching Love is Blind, like sort of simultaneously, and we made plans.
Love is Blind is like you don't know the person and then you get engaged to them and you're like, I love you, but I don't know what you look like, basically.
Yes, sort of. It's not. I loved it because I watched some of the early episodes with Jeff, and he would be like, "This isn't a good idea." And I'm like, "Yeah, no shade. It's not about it being a good idea.
It's a reality show. Yeah.
But
it's supposed to be a train wreck.
They meet each other without seeing each other, so they're just talking. And then some of them fall in love and propose, and then they meet once after that.
So they fall in love. They still haven't seen each other. They connect so hard just via voice connection.
Right. Well, and I think
they go, I love you, let's get married. And then they meet each other once before the wedding. No.
Then they all go to Mexico.
Always Mexico is involved somehow. Every show, it's like, okay, the housewives are going to Mexico. You know, the kids are going on a trip to Mexico this weekend.
Yeah. I'm trying to get to Mexico a couple times this year. Yeah. Then they're in Mexico and they're like deciding if they have any physical connection. And then they're also meeting the other people they met in the pods that they kind of were interested in, but ended up with other people. And that is drama. And then they go home. And if they're still together, they start planning their wedding, which is a week later. And they have to like meet each other's parents and everything. Yeah. But they all decide if they say I do or I don't, like at the wedding in a wedding dress. Like so dumb.
So there is like a last minute back out.
Yeah. Well, and it's definitely, I didn't mean to be talking about Love is Blind so much, but it's definitely a false choice. Like in the sense that they can decide to technically still be dating and just get married later, but it's like for some reason it's like we're either getting married now or we're breaking up. Those are the two options. Right. Which isn't, I don't know.
We're getting married now, or we might get married tomorrow.
Right. But like that's how actual relationships.
What if instead of getting married today, we waited till next weekend, and in between, let's go to Mexico.
But anyway, we've been watching that sort of and texting about it. So we made plans to watch the finale together.
Let me guess where this is going. You did not watch the finale.
No, we did. We did watch the finale.
I get so confused by your different groups of friends. Some of them are like, let's watch a movie. No, let's not.
But this was a big deal because Whitney now lives in the Orange County and has a 1-year-old, and she drove up Tuesday night just to watch the finale with us.
So you better fucking watch it. She did not come to fuck around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. We bet on it. I did the math all wrong because I had too many drinks in me and I couldn't figure out how much people won. We bet on who would
boy,
say yes.
yeah. I hope you paid your mortgage this month.
Anyway, so that all
How much did you bet? How much money did you bet?
$2 a couple.
I just saw a thing. And I didn't even read the article because there's just too much news being thrown at me all the time. But Drake, do you know Drake? Drake, the singer Drake.
I'm aware.
Not the cakes, not the Drake's Cakes guys. Yeah. Yeah, he was like on Jurassic Pulaski Junior High, and then he became
Jurassic Pulaski. It's about a deli.
Anyway, he bet on a fight. Over the weekend, an MMA fight, mixed things that go together, mixed up. Right. He lost $275,000 on this fight. And that's
a lot of money.
Yeah. I guess Drake has a lot of money, so whatever, but like
could have won a lot. Like in theory, he could have won $1 million or something.
I don't think he could have won $1 million. He probably could have won $275,000, or maybe
So he bet to either break even or lose it.
No, I mean he could have won an extra. Like they weren't just like
that doesn't seem like a good bet that he took.
Yeah. I'm going to put $275 in, and if I win, I get it back. If I lose, it's gone. No, I think he could win the amount that he bet. or lose the amount that he bet, and he lost. Anyway, it just made me think about how I have never had the money to bet anything like that. And I don't know that I ever would if I did have the money.
Yeah, it gives me anxiety.
So you had a $2 thing going with your girlfriends watching live from and
it wasn't live,
Mexico or whatever it was.
It's several days early. So technically multiple people could have been cheating. They could have watched the show.
Oh, it was a DVR'd version of the show.
It's Netflix.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't DVR'd, it was on Netflix. But in other words, the show had been available for some time.
Correct.
This is like the Sting. This is basically the Sting, where the horse race ended 45 minutes ago, but we ran a whole operation on the guy.
Pretend like we could,
like it's happening, like we're doing it live right now. Like I'm reading it off the and around comes the BioLink. And yeah, anyway. So you could have won easily without worrying about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we had the honor system, and some people were like, I saw something on the internet about this couple, so I'm recusing myself from this bet.
Right. Which is not technically, recusal is not a betting term, but you know.
I was like, as I said it, this isn't going to go well for me.
Oh, you're recusing yourself? Thank you, Clarence Thomas.
But all of that said, so what you said earlier, I'm used to Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday being like, I'm at home. I that's it.
Nothing else.
With Jeff.
Right.
I work. That's it.
That's all you've done for 2 years.
And so it was, I think my body just kind of like went, like it was too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't feel well Wednesday or Thursday. And then I was panicking because I was like, not only do I have COVID, but I've given it to every single one of my friends.
The Truce, a whole girls on the chain, the dance class. Yeah.
So it's like,
Rafferty or whatever his name is when I hugged him.
Rafferty. Pulaski. Anyway, I took COVID tests and I'm fine. It brought to light how psychological it was, because I was like, I felt like I was having all of the COVID symptoms, you know, like itchy throat. Not, I could taste and smell and stuff, but just like really tired, really achy. My throat kind of hurt, hard to think straight.
Yeah.
And
which ordinarily is such a calculating process for you. But in this case, you couldn't even figure out who owed how much money to who. Right.
I know. COVID brain. And I've really been up at night this whole week being like, oh, I know exactly how I'd calculate it now.
You're just sitting up in bed with an abacus. Damn it. Yes.
It was just, I was like so distracted by friends. I had a couple drinks. There was a lot going on. And I wasn't prepped. I think if I knew like, hey, we're doing betting and like prep yourself for the system, but I was like doing it on the fly and also trying to watch the show. Anyway, it's a dumb excuse, but it's true.
No, it makes sense.
But
so how did you test yourself? Did you already have tests at home, or did you go to a?
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of COVID tests at home now. So I took one, and that was the other. Have you taken an at-home COVID test?
Once or twice, I guess, while I was back in New York over Christmas.
Well, I was mid COVID brain or I don't know, hysterical COVID brain, I guess you could call it.
You were still doing math in your head too.
But like, I was like, what? What do I have to do? Like, it was like, turn to the left 5 times and then wait 30 seconds, but not 15 seconds. Like it was all, I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this correctly. It's so complicated. But
that was exactly my experience when I was back in New York. Was like, I was just in this room with the test in front of me, very carefully going through the instructions, trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. Okay, so I do this, and then I turn it 3 times.
Right, and then you squeeze it, and then you press it.
I put it in my nose, and then in the other nose, and my other nose. Yeah.
But almost as soon as it came back negative, I started feeling better. I think that's how like psychosomatic it was.
Good day, sunshine.
I mean, not like I still didn't feel 100%, but I was like, okay, because I was like going down the like, I was really spiraling.
Right. Jeff, do we have a ventilator?
Right. Oh. But that is also why I was like, I don't want to record. Like, I can't do one more. I cannot talk to anybody right now.
It was too many events in a week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I used to do that all the time.
That's how we live.
Are we ever getting back to that? Or
I don't know. I feel like it is, it's debatable because this is going to have psychological effects for a long time. I feel like, I don't know if this is exactly the same thing. Matter of fact, it's not the same thing at all. But I did go to Rafferty's dance class on Thursday. And
before he offered it?
No, my problem right now is that if I have a thing to do, let's say tomorrow at 3:00 in the afternoon, I don't know what the thing is.
You have to carve out 3 days beforehand. And
I can't do anything between now and then. I'm like, I got to focus on this thing. I got to be ready for this thing I have to do,
I used to like hop to things.
How do you do more than one thing? I can't do more than one thing.
I don't know.
It's very frustrating because I'm like, I know I should be able to, like, I have class on Monday night, but what I want to do on Monday is I want to spend the day writing something. Nope. Can't do it because I have to be ready for class, which means
just staring,
going through all my notes and then sitting down and waiting. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, and I used to like Jeff and I used to kind of make fun of people where you would try to make plans with them, let's say for Thursday night, and they're like, oh, I can't. I'm having lunch on Wednesday. And it's like, ha 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 ha, like, you silly. And now I'm like, I get it. I feel like I'm that person.
Right. Well, even like today, I woke up this morning. You texted me. I think it was like 6:15 this morning or something that you texted me.
I was up at 6:15.
I was like, what the fuck? Who is texting me at 6:15 on a Sunday morning?
Okay, I'm going to get the receipts. It was not 6:15.
But so there was that. So my plan was I was going to get up this morning. This was my plan when I went to bed last night.
9:18.
Okay, well.
Arguably a reasonable time.
Is that East Coast time or West Coast time?
Should I have waited till 10? What is the?
Is that East Coast time?
No, it was Pacific Coast time.
No. It was fine. In fact, I think I was even awake when you texted. I can't remember, but I'll get to that in a second because somebody else was texting me. But
oh no,
yeah. My plan when I went to bed last night was like, I'm going to wake up because again, my hours are insane. Like I went to bed at 4 a.m. last night.
No. And then I texted you immediately.
Right. And one of the reasons was because I exercised at midnight last night. Like I went to the gym at midnight. You
exercised this morning.
Right. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to bed at 4. I'm going to sleep as late as I want. I'm going to get up and I'm just going to walk to the Starbucks and get a coffee, which is like not a huge deal, but like a nice 10, 15 minute walk in the morning.
A Sunday stroll.
Get going.
Classic.
You know? So I wake up, you texted me and I was like, let's meet at 2:00 in the afternoon. Then somebody else was texting me who I had promised a few days ago that I would talk to about a TV show thing she's working on. And she texted me like right around the same time you did and was like, I can talk whenever you want. I'm ready. Let's talk. And I was like, oh, okay. My day is done. I'm done. Aww. Like I have nothing because I can't go to the Starbucks because I have to figure out when.
On the phone while you're walking.
It's too complicated.
It's
too complicated. And anyway, it all worked out, but I definitely did like a lot of, I was like you with the abacus after the betting disaster. Like I was like, if we do this at this time, if I'm doing this because I was also going to like make lunches and breakfasts for the week and all these, and none of that happened. I didn't go to the walk, but it was because I had these other, no. It wasn't this. It wasn't because of this. It was like, and then I'm going somewhere else tonight. And so I was like, I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do. I have too many things, and it's like, it's not too many things. It's just a couple of things, but somehow it feels like an overwhelming amount of stuff to do,
Yeah, so, I 100% know.
So I may not be able to do the podcast next Thursday because of right now.
I know. Same. I get
Between this and Rafferty's goat yoga class in a half an hour, I don't know that I'll be able to do it. So you're feeling better. Everything turned around as soon as you got your results back.
I mean, not immediately, but I was like, I think I do need to maybe lay low, get some extra sleep.
Take a break for a couple of years.
Yeah. Hydrate. Well, because I was all not at the dance class, but all the other nights I was like drinking and socializing. So I think I also was just like my body was like, you need to go to bed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about that in terms of your dance class.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is where I'm like shifting focus onto myself a little bit.
Great. I think you should check in.
Because what I was thinking when you were talking about how you walked into the class and Hanrahan gave you a big hug, and you were like, I don't know that he knows who I am,
right? Because
we're not social. I also teach classes, not dance classes. I teach writing classes. And I'm very aware right now of, and have been for a while, and in fact, it's the thing that I try to encourage in my students, that they be more social with each other in whatever way they possibly can, just because I feel like
connections are it.
Yeah. In that actually reminds me of something else. But yes, like in this business, we've talked about this before. And, as you said, in any business, it's like knowing people and them knowing you and wanting to spend time with you makes you more likely to be in their brain when they're like, oh, I just got sold a show. Who can I hire to work with me on this show? Well,
and so much of it is just like, yes, you need to be talented and be able to produce or whatever, but also it like, do those people want to hang out with you for X amount of months?
Well, especially, I mean, again, this is me being totally biased towards what I do, but a writer's room is such an intense experience where you are literally sitting at a table with people 8 hours a day, talking to them, with them, about them, group about therapy. Themselves. Yeah. It's like, you have to like those people or you will lose your mind.
Right.
Which I have
both have
had that happen. Yeah. But I mean, not even kidding, that has happened. So anyway, so many different things. But one thing is when you're talking about how Houlihan likes to hang out after class and like talk to people and people hang out and whatever, I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say jealous, but I'm like, oh, that would be cool. But when I'm teaching, it's like, the first thing I want to do is get the fuck away from everybody. Like,
yeah.
But it's a very different kind of class. Like, I feel like being in your body and being physical is very different from being in your head and being intellectual. Yeah. Like, I am putting so much of my brain on the table when we're doing these classes that it is physically exhausting, and so at the point where the class is over, I'm like, I need to disconnect and just sit in my comfy chair for a few minutes and collect myself a little bit because I've put so much of myself out there. So that's interesting. But what's also, this is where I'm saying it's all about me, is like, I had a couple experiences this week that I thought were kind of funny related to teaching, where I'm like, I guess people don't understand that teachers aren't just teachers, like that they don't have other stuff going on. because I had one class last week. I always do a thing at the beginning of every class. This is how my classes work. I'm basically selling my classes right now.
Or you're giving it away for free.
Right. But I tell everybody, like, first class, I say, send me an email right now that says whether or not it's okay for me to give out your email to the rest of the class, because I would like to have a list that everybody is on for a variety of reasons, including handing in homework later on and getting it to everybody, because we're all going to be reading each other's stuff and giving each other feedback on our stuff. But also because if you miss class, you can send an email to everybody else on the email list and say, hey, I missed class. Can I get the notes and the homework? And that makes it easy to, somebody who's been in class can just cut and paste their notes into a document and send it to you, and you have everything. They say. So I had a couple people miss class last week, and both of them emailed me, and this happens, emailed me and said, hey, can you send me all the notes for class and the homework assignment? And like, that's why I say, I guess people don't totally understand. Like, first of all, no, I can't. I don't have the time. I just don't, We spent 3 hours sitting in class where you could have been writing everything down, and other people were writing everything down and have it all and can send it to you.
Well, and I would say your class it's not like a history lecture.
I'm
where
not
there's
teaching to the test.
Yeah, there's not like a specific, like on Wednesday, these are the things we're talking about.
There's stuff I know I'm getting to in every class, but there's also lots of other stuff.
It will depend on what people bring in and the notes that organically come up.
That's exactly right. And the notes that come up are going to be important, but only in that specific context. Right. So it's not like I have them sitting in front of me. It's not like I'm going to go, okay, everyone sit down and I'm going to, so it's not like I can go, because I have, I have my notes here, of the stuff that I teach, but it's not like I can go in and go, this is exactly what I taught last week. So I was like, okay. So it happened once, and I kind of was like, all right, well,
send them to the students, or what?
Well, this is what happened is.
Why don't you just tell us what happened?
Wait till you find out. Tune in, folks. That's our show. Tune in next week to find out the end of this exciting story. No, I said to both of them, like, email the class. And then I emailed the class and said, hey,
this guy,
just so everybody knows, not even that. I just said, just so everybody knows, I said this in class, but I just want to make it clear. The reason I got all your emails and sent you all each other's emails is so going forward, when you miss class, you can send each other the notes for class. We had a couple of people who missed class last week. Could somebody please on this thread share the notes from this class? So nothing for 2 days from anybody. And I'm like, fuck. So now I'm going to seem like an asshole because I wouldn't share my notes with these kids who weren't there, when meanwhile it would be so simple. So I sat down and for a fucking hour wrote out everything that was supposed to be communicated in that class. I spent, well, like I said, a fucking hour, and wrote it all out, and I sent it to the whole list. And I said, well, it's a little bit of a bummer that nobody would share their notes, but here's the stuff that I thought was important that we talked about last week. Hopefully in the future, you guys can see your way clear to sharing stuff. So then I get, 6 emails back from people going, hey, I'm really sorry. I was so busy. I didn't, Somebody sent me an email privately that said, I sent it to both of them privately.
Of course they did. Well, I was going to say, that's the danger of asking. I found this at work too. When you email like 20 people asking, they're all like, maybe somebody else is going to do, like, if you address it like, John, send the notes, it's much more likely that you'll get action.
But what was interesting also was my impulse is to, when everybody's like, I'm so sorry, I did that. My impulse is to go, don't worry about it. It's like to send another email going, it's totally my fault. I'm so sorry. It's fine, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to respond to this. So I didn't. And then we had class yesterday, and within 15 minutes, and there was somebody who wasn't there, and within 15 minutes, one of the students in the class sent out all the notes from the class to everybody and was like, so I'm like, okay, now they're trained. Now they know what to do.
Right.
You know?
And I kind of get the person who sent the notes but did it privately, because on some level it would feel like you are testing or judging what their notes are, even though that isn't in your brain. I could see how they could think that.
But yes, but also what I was trying to communicate to them was, and maybe this is a whole other thing, was like, you took notes, but other people might have thought something else was also important that you didn't put down there.
Like the collective notes might be stronger.
So seeing what somebody else, because somebody did after that first set of notes was sent out, somebody else was like, oh, here's another thing that I found really helpful that wasn't in those notes. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want, is like collective knowledge of this, is because
it's impossible to retain it all.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. You always have to. I mean, this is true in history class and math class and whatever. Right. They always talk about like circling back to the same concepts over and over again. And that happens in this class as well. But I know you'll be surprised to hear this, but as soon as somebody brings something up, I will ramble about that thing for 15 minutes about everything I think about that particular thing. And I have very strong opinions about things. So I will, and some of those things are going to be in the moment going to seem important to somebody, and some other person is not going to even think about that because it doesn't apply to what they were thinking about in terms of what they're learning. Right. If that makes sense, you know? So anyway, it was just a funny thing. But then there was another whole thing where another student, and this is actually in a way very flattering, but also kind of funny to me, is somebody who's taking my class sent me a thing and said, you know, I'm really enjoying the class. I think this is great. It's been so helpful. I would like help on this other thing I'm working on. I would like to meet every week for the next 6 weeks. I suggest this particular night would work for me. How about for you? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, whoa.
No, thank you.
It was like, I'm happy to help, but like, I don't have that kind of time. Like I can't, you know, we'll get together once and talk about your stuff, and then you can work on it in whatever way I suggest. And
but
then
like,
whatever.
Kudos for the clarity and the ambition.
Yes. But also, like I said, the idea that somebody would go, please block off your next 6 Thursday nights for me. I'm like, what is your perception of my life? Not that, you know, not that it would be that inaccurate, but I would want to fake that I actually had things to do, you know? So anyway, that was, like I said, it's very flattering that somebody would be that interested, but also it's a little bit like, I think I have nothing in my life.
Well, and again, I admire the moxie, I guess, but
you have been watching The Sting.
But I feel like it should have been framed as like, do you have time? Instead of like, these are the times that I've blocked out. Like it feels
right. It's a specific way of looking at life that is unfamiliar to me.
Right.
By the way, do you remember that in The Sting? Did you ever see The Sting?
I did, but I don't remember a single thing about it.
There's a great scene where the people who want to pull off the sting, you know, Robert Redford and Paul Newman, are in the back room trying to figure out who they're going to hire, and all the guys are up front trying to get the jobs because it's the Depression and everybody wants to run scams so they can make money. And the police detective comes in. I think his name was Heffernan, maybe, or something like that. And comes in and he's like, what the hell's going on in here? And he's like looking at all these guys, and one guy won't tell him. He's like, goes up to one guy and he goes, tell me what's going on. And the guy won't tell him. And he takes the guy's head and smashes it into the table and breaks his nose. Cut to that guy's getting interviewed by the movie stars in the back. And one of them goes, I'll tell you, you got moxie, kid. Like you really Anyway, so that was a couple things that happened this week. The other thing this week, I should have done this a long time ago. Well, before we even talk about that, I did just want to say, because I like this phrasing. Did you see Ron DeSantis yelling at high school kids to take their masks off?
No.
It was a clip that was making the rounds for a while. He was going to speak at some function somewhere, and there was a bunch of high school kids lined up on the stage that were going to be standing behind him, and they all had masks on. And, you know, the whole thing with the conservatives, Ron DeSantis, is it should be individual choice. Like, we should not be forced to do this. You should be able to decide for yourself.
But it can't go the other way.
So he goes up on stage, he sees all these kids wearing masks, and he goes, could you just, this is before he even starts speaking, he goes, could you take the mask off, please? I mean, it's ridiculous, this stupid COVID theater. It's not doing anything. Get the mask off. I mean, if you want to wear them, it's fine, but it's ridiculous. These are fucking high school kids, and he's the governor of California, God help us, of Florida. So anyway, that was floating around, and it was like, God, what a fucking asshole. So some of the kids, of course, you know, they're all kind of laughing nervously, and some of them take their masks off, but some of them, to their credit, leave their masks on. And I don't blame the kids who took them off, because I would be like,
oh my God. I was just having this conversation that, like, the peer pressure of things, I'm affected by it way more than I wish that I was.
And imagine being in high school, you know? But what it really brought home for me was he thinks, and he's not wrong, that attitude plays well with his base, whatever his base is. His base is Republican voters, because, as you know, Ron DeSantis is number 2 in the polling in the presidential Republican candidates to Donald Trump. Like, basically, he's the second favorite candidate at this point. All of which could change quite a bit over the next couple of years, but they like him. And so he thinks that by having this attitude, he is doing what his base wants to do, and he's not wrong. And so the thing I said about that was, people love it. They love it because he's being such a douchebag. He's just being a douchebag, and for whatever reason,
like the Rush Limbaugh thing.
These people think that being a douchebag. So anyway, what I said to one of my friends was,
keeping it real or something.
That's exactly right. He's saying what's on his mind, and like, douchebaggery is not badassery.
No,
like they all think that that's being a badass by just going, get your fucking mask off, you assholes. And it's so obnoxious,
right?
But
they're children. Like, don't talk to kids that way at all.
Unless they like have a ball that goes on your lawn or something, right. You know, then it's okay. So anyway, but my big thing this week was I finally, and I should have done this, like I said, a long time ago. I went and saw Hamilton for the first time.
Oh, right.
So
what'd you think?
I have some notes. No, of course it was amazing, which was not surprising to me. But it was also interesting. Well, it was very overwhelming because, first of all, it was interesting to watch it in a time like this where the world is at war. Mm-hmm. You know, World War III has basically started, and there's all this stuff in the show about, like, they're in New York and 25,000 British troops have just come into the harbor, and that sort of resonated in a way that was more real than maybe it would have been if I had seen the show 5 years ago or whatever.
Feels pointed, but okay.
The people who saw it then just don't get it. They're like, oh, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, pal. But I saw the real version. But the other thing is, like, you know, I went to the show. I'm in this theater with 1,000 people. It was fucking
Emotional.
intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. Like I sat there and I watched what I would call, and then this is, I don't mean to throw show business talk around, but what I would call the opening number. I watched the opening number.
Slow down. I can't keep up with all this jargon.
If I remember correctly, the opening number ends with Alexander Hamilton's entrance, and he goes, "My name is Alexander Hamilton, and the world's going to know my name. Just you wait," or something like that. And then it's like spotlight on him, lights out for the rest of the stage, blackout. Like, it's just a very powerful moment anyway. And because I was in this situation for the first time in years,
right,
that I won't say I never thought I would be in that situation again, but there was parts of it that I was like, are we ever going to be able to do this kind of thing again? It was exactly what you're saying. It was emotional. It was an emotional moment. Just that moment really hit me hard. I fainted. Now, it was also emotional throughout the show that the two teenage girls next to me kept checking their phones. So that's emotional as well.
Different emotion.
But
different emotion.
So I was like, oh, I guess the world has not changed.
But I mean, in their defense, and I don't even mean it in their defense, but like if we're talking about how fundamentally psychologically we are different than we were 2 years ago, imagine being like even younger. Your brain is even less formed, and you're just at home all day on the internet. Like, at the risk of sounding like a grandma, I bet they are literally addicted to their phones in a way that, like, people used to wring their hands about people being addicted to their phones, but it's like
well, that's 100% true. Yeah, absolutely. But on the other hand, I would say it's no surprise that you would come to their defense against them.
No, I think they're wrong and they should shut it off. I'm just, but also not going to any social events. Like, they haven't learned that is wrong, or haven't had the opportunity. I don't know. They don't see, teenagers already see the world as like it's them. It's through their eyes. They are the main character.
Right.
It's all about them. It's not about other people. And they've spent the last 2 years inside interacting with much fewer people. I can't imagine the awareness of other people has gotten better.
It was funny because when I walked in, I was trying to figure out where the show made me really think about this, because there is a very specific theme throughout the show that addresses this. But I walked in and I was looking for my seat, and so I sort of was like, oh, I think this is where I'm sitting. And so I looked at this girl and I was like, I don't remember the numbers, but like, let's say I was in 15. I was like, are you in 14? And she like looked at me as if I was about to murder her. Like, she thought I was trying to kill her or something. Didn't answer me in any way. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, this is okay. Thank you. And I sat down. And I realized, like, I've always had this problem that I'm like twice the size of normal people. So when I approach them, they get very nervous. But also I had a mask on, and we're in this situation where you haven't dealt with anybody in a while. And I said, are you in 14? And there's a lot of ways you could interpret that. Like, I think you're in my seat. I think you're, whatever. So
are you 14?
Are you in the year of 14 of yourself? I know what you mean, sir. Yes, I am.
Thank you for asking.
Right. But there's that whole thing in the show of like, Aaron Burr says to Alexander Hamilton, smile more, talk less.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, from now on, I just need to like, hey, are you in 14?
But say it with fewer words.
Yeah.
14?
14? But anyway, it was great. I really enjoyed it a lot, which, like I said, was not a surprise, but
right.
It was very fun. Every moment is so amazing. And it was funny too to see it with people who clearly, because I have purposely, we talked about this
right. You haven't listened to the
show.
music.
Yeah, you were like, you should listen to the soundtrack. You'd really like it. And I've purposely avoided the soundtrack.
Right.
There's no way you can avoid all of it. Like I knew some of the songs, but I didn't know a lot of them. So like when everybody got so excited when King George came in, was
You're
very
like,
funny.
What's happening?
And it was great. You know?
Yeah, it's really funny.
So I will murder all your friends and family to show you how much I love you. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, and that feels relevant.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. You can't help but think about all that stuff, you know? Apparently, I read a thing that said that song, which I don't know what the name of the song is, but it's all about him doing horrible things to remind you of my love.
Back.
You'll be back. Right. That's exactly what it is, because that came from a conversation that Lin-Manuel Miranda had with the actor Hugh Laurie, where he was talking about how he was working on this show and he was trying to figure out the relationship with the British and whatever. And Hugh Laurie, as a joke, said, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be back." And he was like,
"No way."
Yeah. And he was like, "Holy shit, that's it. That's the song."
That's so dumb.
And that's, that was his inspiration. So
wow.
Yeah. Hugh Laurie, House did it. But so that was my big thing this week. And
that's a big thing. Very big. I would say that I've always been a fan of live theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the pandemic has just intensified that, where how magical of a experience it is that you can't really reproduce on Zoom, or it's a very unique situation.
I agree. And it's something I've always been aware of in terms of or anybody's, but one of the reasons I've always enjoyed doing live comedy in comparison to anything else is because of that idea that it is live, it is in front of an audience, it is about connecting with that audience and connecting that audience with each other. And that is the thing that happens in a theater like that, is you are part of this experience. And you're exactly right. There's no way to replicate that by watching Hamilton on Disney Plus or wherever it is. I forget. I was starting to watch it the other night after I saw it, because I was like, now I've seen it, I can see it again. It's fine. I'm not going to spoil anything for myself, because there's a couple of parts where I was like, what the fuck is going on right now?
Really?
Well, I mean, I didn't get
it. Happens fast.
I was like, who's on which side here? Which guy is on what side?
Right.
Well,
and did you notice some of the actors play multiple parts? I don't know if you picked up on that.
Well, I did not. I thought that they had perfected cloning, and I was like, oh, that's interesting that they have extra people who look exactly the same. But anyway, yeah, it is. And it's not like this was the first, like I've done a couple of shows, but they've been like shitty open mics in tiny black box theaters with 12 people in them, which is, it's something, but it's not the same
like
thing.
Like a Broadway show.
Yeah.
It's and like you called out the lighting cue. Like that stuff is effective. It truly it affects you. You know, like the big lights and it works.
It's funny because I years and years ago I directed a couple of shows, like basically they called them one woman shows, but they weren't. There was like dancers and singers, and it was more than one person in it. And
That's confusing. Why can't you just call them shows?
Yeah, it was like one person, but with backup dancers and singers. But one of the things I did when I was directing that was really fun was write jokes involving technical cues.
Yes. My favorite. I missed that from Liquid Feet times.
And like, in this moment, like we had a whole thing where the lead singer of Journey was like, she had a conversation with the lead singer of Journey at one point. So I was playing him from the lighting booth. I was doing his voice over the mic, over the God mic, we call it in the theater. I don't know. And yeah. And then she had a bag. She changed whatever. This is a long story, but she changed clothes on stage from normal person into superstar. Oh yeah, that was a whole other story. But at one point, like she would unzip the bag, and depending on what zipper she would unzip, different Journey songs would play.
Oh, that's fun.
Like, so then she would like unzip it and it would sing, and then she would close it, and then she would just very quickly unzip, So anyway, there was a couple things like that where at one point, I forget who it was. It must have been the King. He goes, "I'm so blue," and stamps his foot, and the lights all shift to blue, and it gets a big laugh from the audience. And I was like, yeah, that kind of shit just is so fun to me,
Totally.
So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Hamilton. Anyway, I recommend Hamilton. I think it's good. People should see it. More people should go.
I ran the Malibu half marathon listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I, in the second act, cried while running. Like that it still gets you. It's powerful.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we take a break, and then we'll come back and we will do a segment on the show that we like to call Parting Shots.
Sounds good.
Or Sharding Pots. Yeah. We are back. You are listening to The Long Shot. It's a podcast. It's about a lot of things. Today was mostly about Hamilton and a guy named Heffernan who hugs people. We have come to a segment on the show that we call Parting Shots. So let's start today with Amber, because I don't have any.
Sure. Feels like it's been a minute since I've done this, but it's going to be smudgy related.
Oh, smudgy. Yeah.
I feel like on the whole, he's been doing pretty well. And like, there's a lot of things that used to freak him out that no longer. But this week, we've talked about it at length on this podcast, but
here we go again.
I have a garden in front of my apartment.
I don't believe that.
Okay, what do you believe?
I think somehow you confuse having a couple of hedges with gardens.
There's no hedges.
We'll see.
It's pots of plants. I don't have to call it garden. If you come up with a better word,
one of these days I'll come by and I'll see what it is for myself.
You've been here.
All right.
But in that front garden area, I have no control or say in the design or anything of that area. Our upstairs neighbor has been living here for I want to say like 25 years, maybe longer, and he puts a lot of effort into it. But there's like little.
Would you describe him as a gardener? How do you live in this bizarre world of cognitive dissonance? I don't understand. I don't understand how you get through the day. But anyway, go ahead. So your neighbor, who's not a gardener, puts a lot of attention into this garden.
But there's like doodads. I feel like we've talked about it before, where there's little like
toads.
Yeah, and like a tiki guy. Like it's again, it wouldn't probably be my aesthetic. But there's just little like garden weird things between the plants.
Hi, welcome to Tikis and Toads Are Us.
It's fun. I actually don't hate it. I'm just saying I don't think I would have picked out any of it, but I'm like, I don't hate it. But there was a new addition right close to the front gate. There's like a statue of a child Buddha sitting crisscross applesauce meditating. And
that's how those fucking Buddhas always are. They're like, oh, look what I can do with my legs. And I'm not here right now.
And it's pretty big. It's I want to say like a foot or 2 feet off the ground. So it's not exactly.
So it's levitating.
Yes, like Dua Lipa.
By the way, I think I decided that upstairs from you lives a trickster god of some sort.
I think so.
It's like tiki gods, toads, which are always something that's been transformed into a toad, Buddhas that are meditating and levitating.
So it's not exactly like life size. It's not like a person is sitting there, but it's not far off.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the first time Smudgy saw this Buddha, he was not a fan. And it made me like cry laughing because he was barking, he was screaming. Keep in mind, we're still in our front yard. We have not left our yard.
Your front garden.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And he does this thing when he's scared, like Your Honor.
Sorry, I'm going to recuse myself.
Perfect. When he's scared of something, he has really messed up instincts in the sense that like there's times that there's a giant dog barking at him from their yard. I'm talking like the dog's head is the size of Smudgy's whole body.
Mm-hmm.
And Smudgy's instinct is to be like, get up in his face. And I'm like, move, like keep walking, buddy. Like what do you think you're going to accomplish here?
I have a question which might be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
What size is that dog's body?
Oh, it's even bigger than his head.
Because if it was a head the size of Smudgy's body and a body,
do the math like I was doing the bets for Love Is Blind.
If it was a head the size of Smudgy's body and the body was the same size as Smudgy's body, then I could see how Smudgy would be like, there's something fucked up about this dog.
Like
I could be in his face.
You look like a bobblehead. No, it was proportional.
Okay.
So he does this thing where he's scared of something and he gets closer to it, which I don't love. Like, anyway, I wish that he could just be like, I don't like that. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. But he's so scared of it that he has to get very low to the ground. So he's like, we call it kind of Spider-Man mode, where his like, his whole body is really close to the ground and he's trying to smell this Buddha while still barking and screaming, but keeping his body and feet as far away from it as humanly possible while he is smelling it. And Jeff and I were just like, again, I was hysterically laughing. I kept saying like, it's not real. It's not real, baby. It's not real. Like I went up to it. I touched it. I put a treat on it so that he could, and he was like, I can't eat. I'm too upset. And I don't know. I just think there's something really funny about getting pissed off about a meditating Buddha. Like it did the exact opposite of the intention of the statue. And that is funny to me.
Yes, it's possible. I don't know, but it's possible that Smudgy is very much an atheist and is just like religion is bullshit. So whatever God this statue is praying to, probably the guy upstairs. Well, not the guy upstairs, but the guy upstairs. The guy upstairs. See, there you go. That's another dead giveaway that the guy is some type of God. He's the guy upstairs.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, it lent itself for fun because we try to figure out what his inner dialogue is. And it was a lot of like, you think you're better than me because you meditate when you're not. But he's been exposed to it multiple times now. And he's for the most part fine with Buddha. Like it got where he was like, he would check on him. And now he's just aware that Buddha lives near him. But so it's also a nice little, I think that he can get used to anything. He just has to be exposed to it like 8 times, and it's going to be really uncomfortable the first 4 times.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it could be that he's onto something, because I do feel like people who meditate do think they're better than other people. You know? So when he's like, you think you're better than me? He's not wrong, you know?
I meditate and I am better than you.
Case in point. Point.
I mean,
that speaks to exactly what I'm talking about.
I was just joshing.
I get it. Okay. So here's my parting shot. I listened to a podcast recently with a guy named Mike Scully. Does that name
wasn't
mean anything to you?
An announcer?
No, that's Vin Scully.
Oh, then I don't know.
Yeah. No, Mike Scully. I didn't know anything about him, except I knew that you would always see his name in the credits on The Simpsons. He was like a executive producer on The Simpsons for years and years and years. So clearly a guy who's involved in writing and animation and whatever. And so he has been running this show that I guess is coming back called Duncanville, which is like a Fox animated show.
Never heard of it.
It's run for 2 seasons already. So I guess you're not exactly in the loop television wise. I
don't work at animation.
But he's he it's a show that he created with Amy Poehler, whatever. The point is it was like an hour and a half long podcast where these 2 guys who are, I don't know what they are. They're like aspiring sitcom writers, or they have written sitcoms. I'm not quite sure, but they basically were just talking to him about his career and everything he's learned, whatever. And they said to him, so he's now running Duncanville, and they said, what is the most important thing for new writers when they go into the room for the first time? And I think there's a million ways you can answer that question, but he answered it in a way that I thought was so funny, because it's exactly one of the first things I say to my students in class. Because the first thing he said, and it's relevant to what we were already talking about today, he goes, the most important thing you can do in the writer's room as a new writer is stay off your phone.
Oh, wow.
He goes, that's a real problem, is that, you're trying to solve all these problems on the show. You have story problems, you have joke problems, you want people to be focused on things. And I know this exact feeling where, as the showrunner, you're like, you're in your head and you're like, okay, we got to get this. Like I've been there. I've been like, we got to get this and this. And I'm thinking we need something like this and whatever. So, and then you look and you just see everybody staring at their phones, and you're just like, motherfuckers. And as this guy says in the podcast, he goes, you're being paid a lot of money to be in that room and help get done what needs to get done. So be in the room and help get done what needs to get done, because the showrunner might not say anything, but he'll remember. Me. I did say things, but he sees it and he notices it and he knows, and he's going to be aware of it from then on, and that's going to have an impact on your career ultimately. And I was listening to it and I was like, the only person I fired from any of the jobs I've had was because it was a guy who would not stop looking at his phone all the time.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there was other problems too, but that was definitely one of the things that was very noticeable. So anyway, I thought that was, there were so many things he said, because, you know, after that, they were just asking him all kinds of questions about running the room and whatever. And I was like, yes.
He could be your best friend.
Right.
You could come up to him and be like, you are now my best friend.
Right. I'm so glad we had this time together in dance class all these years. But it was just like, in whatever way, it was gratifying to know that there are other people out there who've had the same problems.
Of course.
Dealt with it the same way, you know. But that's my thing. I don't have anything else. I really don't. So that's our show, I guess, right?
I think we did good.
Yeah, I think so too. We're now in week 2 of World War III. We'll see where it goes. I think one thing, I mean, you know, I don't want to get into a whole thing about that, but one thing that I'm finding very distressing on top of everything else is you turn on the news now and what are they doing? What are they doing on the news? Like, in other words, every newscaster is going, your city has been shelled to ruins. Your family is dead. You have no escape. There's no way out. The shelling continues. How do you feel right now?
Not good.
Yeah, like that's like, what are we getting from that? Like, that is the question over and over. What are you feeling right now?
Do you like
How
it?
are you feeling? Is this good or bad? Do you feel well or not so well? 2 thumbs up, 1 up, 1 down, or 2 down?
Would not recommend.
Like, what the fuck are we watching?
Yeah.
You know, these fucking morons. And it's all of them on every network. That's all they have to say.
What should they ask? What would you?
I don't know. I don't know that it feels like
predatory almost, or like,
yeah,
like
I was gonna
porn.
That's exactly the word I was going to use, was pornography. Like, it's some kind of tragedy porn, you know? I watched a show recently, and I won't say the name of the show because I'm going to give away the end of the whole thing, but I liked the show. It was intense. There was sad things that happened along the way, but in one of the first couple of episodes, 2 people commit suicide right away, like, as the show is unfolding. Not even main characters. It was just like, and then another person is like thinking about it and gets stopped in the middle of it to do all this other stuff, and then they go on their way and they do all this other stuff, and 10 episodes go by, and at the end of that, they've done what they set out to do. And
no,
you see this person who was thinking about killing himself at the very beginning. Now it's 10 episodes later and they've accomplished what they set out to do. And he's kind of sitting there looking off into space. And then they cut to a very wide shot of this character. So, you know, he's just like a little, you know what a wide shot is. He's like a little dot in the distance, and you just hear,
no.
Yes. And I was like, it was fucking tragedy porn. Like, that's all it was like, there was no reason to do that except because it was like, oh, okay, let's make it worse. Let's not have a happy ending. Let's make things sad at the end. And that's how I feel about watching this stuff on the news. Because you're right. Like, what else are they going to do? But also, it's like,
don't interview them at all.
Yeah, like, these people are having the worst. They're in the worst circumstances, and all the newscaster is doing is looking for a way to be a voyeur and go, so this is you feel bad, right? You feel bad? You do feel bad. Anyway, I'm going to take a break from the news, I think. We'll see. Folks, this has been The Long Shot. It is a podcast, and we record every Thursday or Sunday or Saturday, sometimes early Sunday mornings. Very early Sunday mornings, we text back
and forth,
about, you know, what's going on. So we'll see you next time.
lots of money. I go where the shuttle